and in Jewish law it is forbidden for somebody to actually be on the cross during the Passover, the Romans had to quickly execute the prisoners. There was 3 of them. What they did was that they had a large club, and this club is normally used to beat clothes and clean clothes. So what they would do is that they would normally tend to break the legs of the victims. So that would therefore, all the body's weight would be normally on the nails and the wrist or through the hand, which would result in excruciating pain and eventually shock, and the heart would shut down. Now the Romans did this for 2 of the thieves who were next to Jesus. They broke their legs. But then they turned to Jesus, and the Bible said that the soldier looked up and he saw Jesus and he thought him to be dead. So he cried out to his superior and says, "Look, he's dead. I don't need to really break his legs." And the centurion threw him a spear and goes, "Make sure, check it." So what he did was that he stabbed him through the side. He pierced his skin basically. And from there, the Bible is quite explicit. It says that blood gushed out. Now, for us, that's quite a sure sign that this is actually a person who's got an active heart, that his heart is beating and the blood gushes out. Dead bodies do not really, basically if you pierce a dead body, it would not gush out. Blood may dribble out a little bit, but it would not be the way the Gospel describes it, as gushing out. Further signs can go into this. After he was taken down, 2 of his disciples, his secret disciples, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, what they did was that they took the body and they took myrrh and aloe, and they wrapped the body in myrrh and aloe. The quantity is actually enormous. I mean, it's about 100 pounds worth. That's the Gospel of John tells us. They wrapped the body with these herbs and spices and took him away. This is curious. This is interesting because it is not. I mean, if you look at these two herbs, myrrh and aloe are especially known for their healing properties. Myrrh especially for burns and cuts and bruises, and same thing with aloe. I mean, the users may even heard of this. In Gillette, you got aloe vera shaving foam. Again, these are all predominantly to heal the body, to heal wounds and cuts and bruises. So they've applied a huge amount of this quantity, applying it on the body of Jesus and wrapping it up. The narrator, the evangelist John, does attempt to kind of explain this away by saying that this is the custom of the Jews. True, the Jews do have, they would apply spices on the body, but never would they apply myrrh and aloe. They would have certain cleansing spices that they would apply to the body, where they would apply the oils and then wash off all the dirt. Or majority of cases that the spices were often burnt for scent in the tomb. But never in history do we have an example where myrrh and aloe was applied in huge quantities to a dead body. So if you go into this in more detail, you can see quite a lot of evidence which piles up eventually.
Excellent. And Mashood, before we take a break, I just want to mention to our listeners the reference there for the myrrh and aloe is the Gospel of John, which records that Nicodemus bought myrrh and aloes and it says about a 75 pounds in weight, and that's John 19:39. So if our listeners do have their copies of their Bibles on hand, have a read of that. That's John 19:39. If you have any questions on tonight's programme, do call us after this break. It's 0208 180-2523, and if you'd like to text our studio, it's 07961573883. We'd like to hear from you. The time now is 7:30. You're listening to 94.3 FM, the Voice of Africa Radio. This is our Sunday Islam Hour, brought to you by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. The topic of tonight's programme is that of on Jesus Christ, on whom be peace, and the Islamic point of view. You are welcome to call our studio tonight. The telephone number is 0208 180-2523. Now, we did get a few missed calls throughout the break, so if you are calling our studio, now's the time to do it, and we'll bring you straight on air. With me in the studio, I have Mashood Ahmad from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. Mashood is studying a Master's in Biblical Studies, and he will be presenting the point of view of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. I do have a caller on the line, Mashood, so let's try and connect our caller and say hello to our caller. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
No, it's not.
I thought we had a caller online.
No, it's not.
No, okay. If you are trying to ring our studio, the number for you is 0208 180-2523. Now, Mashood, we've spoken about the crucifixion. Sorry, I had to get my teeth in. I thought we had a caller on the line. And we've got up to the point where we've mentioned that Jesus was taken down off of the cross. And just before the break, you mentioned that aloe and myrrh were applied to his wounds as a healing agent. Now, what happened next?
Well, we have to take the gospel narratives as that. Basically, the body is placed into a tomb, into a very airy tomb. It was a tomb belonging to a very rich disciple of his, Joseph of Arimathea. And he was pretty much left alone in that tomb. What happened in that tomb, we don't really know. We would probably say that he had some disciples in there who were actually tending to his wounds. After that, how he comes out of the tomb is a lot of debate is basically arise on that. We don't really know how it kind of happened. The gospel narratives talk about an angel of the Lord coming down, striking fear on the soldiers, and then they fall down as though dead, and Jesus comes out of the tomb, or the angels come and bring him out. What is also interesting is that another gospel, the Gospel of Peter, talks about the soldiers going in fright and 3 people then coming out of the tomb. In between the 2 people, they are basically carrying a third person who is dragging his feet. So this may well have been a method in which Jesus came out, where he was actually dragged out by his disciples, and obviously he was taken away. The further narratives talk about basically him meeting up with other disciples, even his brother James, and he was obviously tended, his wounds were tended to and taken care of, and then he carried on with his mission basically.
Okay, Mashood, I have a text that's coming, so I'm going to try and read this question out. In the meantime, just want to mention to our listeners, if you are calling this studio, if you are calling Voice of Africa Radio and you do want to come live on air, then the number is 0208 180 2523. If there are any other questions you may have, then you need to ring the office line at 0208 471 9111. If you are ringing the number I give up first, that will bring you straight on air, so please don't use that number unless you are ringing about tonight's topic or have any discussions to make on this topic. You can also text our studio at 07961 573 883, and the topic once again is Jesus Christ and the Islamic or the Ahmadiyya point of view on what happened and what his mission was and what happened around the crucifixion. Now, Mashood, I've got this text in. I'll try and make heads or tails of it. It says, hi, Moses was not killed. I'll read it out literally and we'll try and see if we can make sense of it. It says, Moses was not killed, I think. Prophet Muhammad was not killed. Prophet Ghulam was not killed too. So, please can you explain why Christians say Jesus was killed from Khwaja?
Okay, well basically I would suggest he asked a Christian why was Jesus killed. I'm not really the best place, but from what I understand, that Jesus' death is quite central to Christian faith. Even Paul states it when he writes to the Corinthians, that a lot of the church in Corinth, basically one of his churches, they began to deny the resurrection. So one of Paul's arguments, when he wrote when we wanted to guide them back, was simply by saying, look, if you cannot deny the resurrection, our Lord Jesus died and resurrected. Without the resurrection, without the dying of the cross, our preaching is in vain. Our whole religion is basically in vain. So this is quite a core and central doctrine of the Christian faith. It's a doctrine of atonement, where Adam led because of his first sin. I say that in quotes. And the kind of origin sin kind of passed down generation to generation. And the second Adam came along, which they say is Jesus Christ, came, and he was basically the perfect sacrifice. And he atoned for the sins of mankind by dying on the cross. And belief in that, through grace, can lead you to salvation, basically.
I mean, this is always a topic which is fathomed a little bit, and perhaps I don't understand it well enough. What happens, I mean, obviously this is probably not a question for you, but it leads to the question, what happens to those people that came before Jesus Christ, the people, millions of people that have lived on the earth, or however many that were here, and didn't have that opportunity to believe in Jesus? Will their sins then not be forgiven? Will they end up in hell, according to the Christian point of view?
Again, well, the Christian will probably be best off answering this. I've heard of my own kind of